Okay, today we're going to discuss the nature of reality as understood. Currently, all things are created from nothing. And how do you create from nothing? Well, the only way you can create from nothing is by creating something and its equal and opposite negative. So take sound, for instance, or any frequency, but sound is something we can understand as a metaphor and as the actual material. If you look at a frequency graph, you see a loop on top of the center line and a loop on the bottom of the center line. Now, in order to create sound, you have to have the loop on top and the loop on bottom. They have to cancel each other out. From silence, you can make sound. And when these loops are squeezed back down, again, you have silence. Same thing with the matter, with the material world. There is Steve Hawking, the great physicist, posited that on the edge of the black hole, the rim of the black hole, where there's created molecules, there is an equal and opposite clone molecule that goes in the black hole, and then the other one that's pumped out into the universe. So every atom, cell, every material particle that makes up your body, for instance, exists in an equal opposite form on the other side of the black hole. That keeps it in existence. Now, what's important to realize through all this is that there's only one thing that does not require an equal and opposite for it to exist. There's only one thing that exists. And before I tell you what that is, I'll say that all things that are created by an equal and opposite ultimately will resolve. Sound ultimately gets softer and softer, and both those loops go back down into nothing, into one. And when I say nothing, I don't mean that it's nothing as in nothing exists. It is a substrate of existence that does not have any qualities. And without qualities, you cannot see it or describe it or feel it. The sensory or intellectual tools that we have do not compute on the level of something that doesn't have qualities. We need qualities. So what is this thing that exists that does not require an equal and opposite, that is by definition eternal? All things that are created by an equal and opposite ultimately resolve into the without quality aguna, aguna. Guna is quality, aguna is without quality, Sanskrit. And the one thing that exists that does not require an equal and opposite to exist, and therefore is eternal because there's nothing to resolve to, it is love. Of course, unconditional love. Any kind of conditional love, like you give me this, I give you that, is of that dualistic. The dualistic meaning one positive, one negative, and I don't mean positive, negative, bad, and good. I'm just using clumsy language to explain an energy that reflects the inversion of the one energy so that they can resolve into nothing. So love, unconditional love, is the one thing that exists eternally, and that's why God is love. Yes, and that's why unconditional love is the one thing that when we manifest that, we are actually creating an aspect of reality that is permanent, that becomes part of the divine experience, part of the divine, and from that substrate of love, there can be, again, a positive and negative from that. Another example of how this works is how banking works, how money works. You go to the bank doesn't have anything, it just has an ability to say, you give me a promise to pay, and I'll give you these dollars that I created out of nothing. But these dollars are created out of nothing, but they have a value because they are backed up by the debt, which is the negative. And when you eventually you come back to the bank, you pay it back. They take the money. The debt is resolved into nothing. And again, the bank has nothing. You have nothing. But you played with it. You went out and you bought a tractor, and you bought seeds, and you were a farmer, and you made a thing, and you pay, and you gave something for money again, and it equals zero, and you paid back the money. Of course, the inherent fault in this monetary system is that the bank charges interest. Where do you get that from? Well, you can't get that, and so ultimately you end up having a crisis. But that's a different matter. So the next, I'm going to talk at some point about black holes, the very importance of black holes, and realize that the center of each molecule is a micro black hole. Now, I'm not saying this is fact, but this is theoretical physics, and at least a powerful metaphor. In fact, I'll just talk about it now. The idea that the center of each molecule is a miniature black hole, which explains why the electrons just don't go flying off, because a little black hole has a whole lot of gravity, way in excess of what a little particle of electrical charge would have. Now, what's on the other side of this black hole? Well, it's a two-way street. And what goes through it? Cognitive thought does not go through a black hole, but emotion does. And so that's the power. And what's on the other side of a black hole? Well, God, of course. And we are the expression, that we are the thought manifestation of the God matter. And the lovely Sankhya Vedic way of looking at things is that there was the male energy of being without quality, and then the feminine energy of movement and the seed and the vibration. And when the vibration hits a substrate of, ow! Yes. When vibration hits a substrate, it creates a frequency which is an equal and opposite, negative and positive, and creates sound. So you take a guitar string which is perfectly still, which would be the masculine, for whatever reason, and then you pluck it, with an idea of how to create, and that's the feminine, and you have sound, which is so something that you can hear. You pluck it, you have matter on the universal scheme of things. So when they say God is within, they weren't kidding. God is actually very within. Out there is sort of whatever, but inside. So when you meditate, you can use that metaphor to go deep and to actually allow and encourage that image on the other side, which is you in inverse, to come through and revamp your body into health and organization, because there's the idea of God, of this who you are. And if we're cut off from that, then we start disintegrating. If we connect with that, we are actually reintegrating. So if you have a cut on the end of your finger and you want it to heal, on the other end is the picture of the idea in God's mind of the perfect finger, and you just allow, it happens naturally, but you can actually have an influence over it, and as you evolve, you become more and more aware of that. You are an expression of the thought of God through this black hole. So love is the one thing that goes through the black hole, and love loves love. I mean, love is, for whatever reason, that's the basis of this universe, of this reality, and there you have it. So meditate deep, bring in that vision to bring in complete awareness, moment by moment awareness, because the big game is not this physical thing. The game is much bigger than that. All right? Blessings.